All right, so I'm going to call to order it is Monday, May 13th, 2024, the Board of Finance for the City of Burlington. And our first agenda item is the agenda. Is there a motion on the agenda?
I would move to adopt the agenda.
By Councilor Carpenter. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Barlow. Any further discussions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving right along. Next item up is our public forum. Are there any members of the public in the room looking to address the Board of Finance? Okay, none. Are there any? I'll move to online. And I see that former Councilor Sharon Busher is online. Sharon, I think you're the only one, so we'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Mayor. I wanted to speak briefly to deliberative item number 3, which is the ARPA funds for the kiosk at City Hall Park. And I realize that this is pretty far along, that so that there's no turning back, but every aspect of City Hall Park has gone over budget. And this is just another example. And when you look at the total amount, it's close to $500,000 for this kiosk. And I really like amenities, don't get me wrong, but I feel that in the last few years, my priorities have been more focused on what we have, what we really need, not what we would like to have. And I feel I'm saddened that we're spending $500,000 on a kiosk. I just had to say that because I don't know if there's anything that's still remaining for City Hall Park to be done, but I really hope that the Board of Finance and the new administration will look carefully at how we spend these dollars. And there are no more ARPA dollars, I understand that, but I just needed to state that. So thank you very much.
Sharon, are there any other folks who'd like to address the Board of Finance during public forum? Change your mind? Yeah. Okay. Moving right along. Okay, so I'm going to close public forum. And we're moving on now to item number 3, our consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? So moved by Councilor Carpenter. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Chavez. Before we take a vote, I just wanted, for the sake of transparency, note that within this series of items, item 3.4, which is related to the Early Learning Initiative capacity grants, I noticed that one of the beneficiaries is a program where one of my children attend. It is a general operating grant. It's not a conflict necessarily, but I like transparency. So one of my kids happens to go on these programs. So just make you note of that. But is there any further discussion or questions before we vote on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving right along. Our next item, our deliberative agenda, which item 4.1. Nick, come on up. If anyone who's with you today, and when you join us, we like introducing everybody you brought with you. So we'll move right into the item.
Can we go now to
If you would like to introduce folks, and then just introduce the item, and then any presentation.
perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors. This is our first board meeting. So we're excited. We have about half of the airport with us here tonight. My name is Nick Longo. I'm the director of the airport. Today we're here with Larry Leahy, our director of planning, engineering, and sustainability. Marie Friedman, our director of finance. With Dave Carmen over here, our deputy director of aviation operations. Hannah Lumbra is our executive assistant, and Jeff Bartley is our director of innovation and marketing. So I'll start with the first one. This is a relatively procedural one for us. It's a large dollar value to update and repair our parking garage. We have a 50-year program of repairs, replacements, all sorts of things that we kind of adhere to replace certain pieces and parts of our pretty large 6-floor parking garage. This is just over $360,000 repair that we bid out, receiving multiple bids back. And this is essentially going to repair the joints in between the concrete blocks within our parking garage. So we're here tonight to ask for authorization to sign this contract with PCS Specialty Contracting for those repairs.
Does anyone else want to say anything from the airport? Who's here joining them?
That was very good.
That's fine. We'll open up for discussion. Any questions or comments from the board? Also, Barlow?
Thank you. I'm just curious to know, I know that there's the hotel project and other things that interact with the garage there. Is any of this work going to be undone through the new construction that's going to be done?
Good question. No, this is truly repair to maintain that infrastructure. It definitely is one of those large pieces or large buildings that needs constant attention, whether it's water management or steel replacement or fixtures. We're already undergoing a major fire alarm system replacement, as well as new lighting in the garage, which is about a $2 million project. That's gonna be multiple years, and we strategically plan each and every one of these to close during strategic times of year, right, outside of our peak season. And not to close down a certain amount of parking spaces, because of course, it makes it much more challenging. When new buildings or new infrastructure goes in, like the hotel or anything else adjacent to it, it's all planned accordingly, but none of this is gonna be removed because of those future buildings.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion. Let's make one on this item, 4.1.
I'm not on the agenda, but I will move it.
I think
I'm
Carla's
ready.
ready.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
All right.
I'll do this. I'll move to approve and recommend that the city council authorize the director of aviation to execute a contract with PCS Specialty Contracting for FY25 parking garage repairs in the amount of $364,844, subject to the review and approval of the contract by the city attorney's office.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Is there a second? And by Councilor Carpenter. Is there any further discussion before we vote online? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving right along to item 4.2. I realize I didn't read the title. I'm asking my colleagues to read the motions. I'm supposed to read the title, so I'll read the title on this one. Item 4.2, the request for approval of a $1,276,829 budget neutral amendment to the fiscal year 24 Patrick Leahy Burlington International Airport.
All right, so I'll kick it off really quick, and then Marie's gonna really fill in the majority of this. So following procurement and budget amendment policies, anything over the $50,000 mark through our budget. Again, we're talking about FY 2024, our current year, versus what we'll be talking about later tonight. This is clearly above the $50,000 mark, and it accounts for multiple line items throughout our budget. You're gonna see this pretty periodically throughout the year, especially towards the end of the year, essentially as we reallocate our budget neutral within line items of the airport. And Marie, go for it, details.
Very good. Well, we have one larger item on here, and the rest of them are sort of smaller items. I take this opportunity to make sure as our spending goes along, we have something like 400 expense accounts across the airport, across multiple cost centers. There's always a little adjusting that we do, and so you'll see this. We'll be back in June. We keep an eye on this and we adjust this to make sure we're in compliance. The largest one that we have here is a project that is the construction of the project is commencing faster than I thought that it would when I put together the 2024 budget over a year ago. And that is our South Apron capital expense project. And so I'm coming forth now to adjust this year's budget to reflect the timing of the construction. And other than that, most of the other requests are in airport's budget size, fairly small items and just adjustments to.
Any questions or comments from the board? Council Barlow?
Yes, in the original approval, I think the non-grant eligible is for 875,000. This is for.
Great question. So, yeah, it is correct. Our grant that we have on there is about $3.5 million, $3.6 million. But there are some portions of the construction that is, most grants, that the actual grant is we only have a 10% local share, and that is absolutely correct. This is in addition, these are some additional, I don't know. Areas of construction that we're doing that are around there. And so this is, this part is ineligible under the grant. So sometimes that happens. We have components of a project that the airport is going to cover something that is outside the scope of the grant. So that is what this portion is.
In that increase from the original.
I guess I'm unclear of what the 800,000 to the.
Well, there was capital expenditure for the project costs, non-grant costs, $875,000 for the south. But I mean, if it.
There's no increase.
And there's
There's no increase, it's just money's being spent faster, being very efficient with the construction. That is gonna be done by the end of this fiscal year, actually, rather than going to the next fiscal.
That would cost this year and into next year.
Okay, so there must be additional costs that I didn't read in the original memo. That when you got council approval for that project. There's $875,000 that.
I see what you're saying.
Is using part of the project, so
Yes.
it was ineligible for.
For that
Federal
particular fiscal year or earlier in their year, this is really a $5 million project. So we're just spacing these apart in the fiscal years of what the actual expenditures are. At first, I thought you meant this $800,000 went to 1.1 million. It really is just a timing difference, not a project cost difference at all. Yeah. I don't recall.
We can take it up. I just didn't see where it matched up, and so there's obviously some information.
When was the original memo?
October 17th, 2022.
Yeah, so that's when we first got the project grant, the project timing, and we didn't think we were gonna be constructing as much as we are in FY 2024, which is why we need this additional amendment. In the FY 2024, just like we're gonna present for our budget, you're gonna see all of those capital expenditures, and occasionally they change based on strictly the schedule. The project cost has not changed from this original project.
Right, and the approval for the contract itself, which might have been part of that one, or might have been, I don't know which.
It was later.
It was the later one,
Yeah.
would have included all of the costs
Okay.
in there. So maybe.
And
I'd have to put back all
that later when defined how.
Understood.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
Great question. Councilor Carpenter?
This is just more comment and maybe for another conversation around, just looking at the small amounts of budget items that and I understand they're neutral, but it surprises me that it has to come to us. Just my comment, I suppose. I think we should look at some of those things at some point. It seems to me, you see some awfully small expenditures, and if they are budgeted and they are budget neutral, I just am questioning why they need to get that stuff.
Have a long list of those things
Okay.
about why there's so many board of finance in a modern city, but thank you, Council Carpenter.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I think, but in truth, I mean, not to joke about it, but I think there are many things that I have learned throughout these first 5 weeks around why are we still requiring that level of scrutiny for a city this large, especially in the last 10 years, how things have really grown in costs, and why are we wasting our assets and our time this way if we don't do so. Anything else on this item from the board, or I call the question? Okay, then I will entertain a motion. If one has someone over there wants to make one for this item, 4.2.
I would move that the Board of Finance approve and recommend City Council approve a budget neutral amendment in the amount of $1,276,289 in fiscal year 2024 Patrick Leahy Burlington International Airport budget by increasing the accounts as described in the affiliated memorandum.
Thank you, Councilor Carpenter. Is there a second?
Just it was 829, just to be there.
Well, I just, Councilor Carpenter converted a number.
Oh, excuse me, sorry,
So-
12768.
Thank you. I'll take that as a second, Councilor Kane. Okay, great. Okay, any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Airport. All right, moving right along to our last item on our deliberative agenda tonight, item 4.3. This is ARPA Community Infrastructure Budget Amendment request to execute. I'll speak slowly so you have plenty of time to lock up here. A contract with ST Ireland Brothers Corporation for the site work and utility connections required for the kiosk and city hall parks to Lucido and their business and workforce development department here. All would mind introducing yourselves to the board first, and then.
Mara Elmastrawi, Director of Business and Workforce Development, which includes the Church Street Marketplace. I have also been managing the ARPA funds since the city received them.
Brian Fine, the Director of the Community and Economic Development Office.
Zach Nurse here, also with Community and Economic Development and Community Works, and I've been helping to manage this project.
So the item before you tonight is seeking your approval to respond to the financial realities of the kiosk project in City Hall Park. Just a quick bit of background, I think, which is helpful for the Board of Finance, is that the original plans to renovate City Hall Park included the kiosk, but due to constrained budget, it was pulled out of the project. That was always a plan to move forward. But the underground utilities and other related site work was not part of the original project. So that's basically what is being sought tonight, is funding to do that. I'll just remind you all that the city did a survey, Kara's team did a survey in 2021 regarding how to use ARPA funds. And the public overwhelmingly wanted to see, in addition to us addressing housing and homelessness, there's a lot of support for outdoor public gathering spaces. It was a really important thing that the public prioritized. And I think, given the nature of the pandemic, it made a lot of sense. And again, Kara's team led the effort to solicit ideas and develop a proposal. And last May, council approved allocating $2 million in ARPA for building infrastructure or improving infrastructure to support community gathering spaces. And in that action council took, $300,000 was allocated for City Hall Park kiosk. The kiosk is currently being constructed by the company that's building it, a modular unit, at a cost of approximately $250,000 is the cost to build a kiosk. It's slated for delivery in early June after the site work is done. You don't want to put a kiosk on top of a site and then have to move it to put the utilities in. So the sequence is that. The lowest responsive bid for utilities and site work came in at right around $200,000, with a small amount set aside for contingency, getting I think to $220,000 as our total amount. We're proposing a reallocation of $150,000 in ARPA funds that were previously allocated to the waterfront / Moran project in order to move forward with the kiosk at this point. Thanks so much to Samantha Dunn and Zach for bringing this project quickly to fruition, and of course for Cara and her team for their management of ARPA. What we have.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, Councilor Carpenter.
And I should know this, we have already someone who's releasing it, right?
Yeah, we haven't signed the contract, although he is prepared to sign it. This is the last piece in the puzzle. Yeah.
Further comments or questions? Councilor Chapman.
So, for defining, sorry, I just want to confirm one thing, which is that the modular unit is, as far as we understand, already, I mean, we're under contract with them and it's already under construction.
It should be delivered in June.
Okay, all right. All right, and can you explain a little bit more as to what the reasoning is behind the increased cost over what we had initially projected for getting the site ready for this? Can you just expand on it?
Well, I think the original estimate may have come from our own in-house estimate at DPW.
I believe so, yeah, but they're not able to execute the work.
Yeah.
And the bids that came in from outside were staggeringly higher than expected.
When asked, one of the bidders simply replied, that's the cost of getting this work done today under our current conditions. Cost of labor and materials, yeah.
Okay. I guess we've had a couple of these as of late that involve sort of similar materials, thinking about like the Ridge Streets project,
Yeah.
the Ravine Sewer, for example,
Yeah.
where contractors told us that the cost of doing business is staggeringly more than we initially estimated it would be. I suspect that's true. The cost of doing everything has gone up significantly. But I guess just a question for you, and this isn't really necessarily related to this project, as much as it is sort of moving forward and some of the other expense related items we'll be looking at for the city. I mean, have we, as far as you're aware, sort of recalibrated our own estimates as to how much projects like this are going to cost going forward?
I think so. I think that, the data that comes back from a bidding process is often used to sort of regroup and look at some of the assumptions, and make sure that we're using current best practice and manuals that talk to you. It provides you with a project estimating tools that you can use, but it is kind of it's a software package, and if you happen to get it sort of at the end of its cycle, you may be behind the eight ball in terms of being able to estimate accurately. So there's some challenge with getting to precision on that, for sure.
And if I can just ask one additional follow-up question, sort of in two parts. So this is taking monies away from some of the waterworks amenities that we had planned for. How far along are we in terms of that planning, and do you have any sense as to what taking monies away from the waterworks amenities means for that particular park? And then I suppose the second part of this question is, I know that there were a couple other outstanding ARPA funded projects. I wonder if we can take this as an opportunity. I'm particularly interested in the authorized work at 405 Pine Street, the community room and kitchen there. I'm wondering if you can provide any update as to where that stands, and are we going to be running into any sort of similar issues with respect to potential cost overruns there? We're going to have to make adjustments down the road.
Cara can cover that one, definitely. And I'll speak about a little bit more about waterfront, but I think Zach can take some.
Yeah, correct. Yes, of course, execution of these projects as inflation is impacting our environment, there will be some tweaks needed. That specific, that 405 Pine, that money is already out the door. So that's not coming back, and that's gone to the BCA Foundation, and it's part of their project, and they have to report back to us upon their completion of the project, so they're almost an external entity in that manner. You will see in CAO Shad's presentation later tonight, that we did take a sharper knife to some of the ARPA projects that were funded to try and address what we can and cannot realistically achieve at this point, from multiple perspectives, including the point you're bringing up right now. And so you will see some decisions that the mayor's office made in conjunction with my input and CAO Shad's to trim down some of those allocations. As I said, in light of these developments.
And with respect to the waterfront and Moran specifically, there will be some additional work that'll happen, more of an activation level as opposed to major public improvements. You will see in the presentation that the car just referenced that we basically, return funds that were allocated out of the ARPA pool, the same pool, to help cover the general fund gap. So that project is going to be put on hold. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to the board on item 4.3. Long one. Extra points for giving this motion. Oh, Marlo, thank you.
Okay, I'll move to approve and recommend that the city council approve and authorize the city's chief administrative officer or their designee to execute a budget amendment to increase the city hall park kiosk budget by $150,000 from the expanded waterworks park connections and amenities budget of $600,000. To approve and recommend the director of the Community and Economic Development Office to enter into a contract with SD Ireland Brothers Corporation for the purposes of completing the site work and infrastructure connections for the City Hall Park kiosk with a cost of up to $197,500 and approximately 10% contingency for a total authorization and maximum limiting amount of $220,000, subject to final review and approval of the city attorney's office.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Kane. Any further discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. And seeing that there's no further business by the Board of Finance, I will adjourn this meeting at 5:31 p.m. Not bad. All right, so we will shuffle as more people shuffle in here. And we will switch gears while these people are turning. Okay, so we'll just give it a 2-minute